Okay, back to Zoom. What to say? We're all very fortunate. We have a great fortune of having come to Krishna consciousness. Very, very rare. Manusham Shahasheshu Kashid Yatati Shantaye. And the rarity of Krishna consciousness means that it should be appreciated, valued. What makes diamonds valuable? It's just, you can get glass that practically no one except for experts can tell the difference. So what's so special about diamonds? They're rare. There's not many of them. What's so special about gold? I mean, it's very attractive, but there's not much of it around. So the rarer something is, the higher, more and more price goes up. Musk costs more than gold per pound, or per kilo, or per ounce, or per gram. Well, it's very, very valuable. So Krishna consciousness is very valuable. And now the question is whether we value it or not. As Krishna says, Sarvadharma Parityaja, if you value what I'm giving you, then just drop everything else and just pay what it's worth. If you want glass, there's lots of glass to be had around. But if you want diamonds, if you want the real thing, then you have to pay the price. Otherwise, you cheat yourself. You don't really get the real thing. It requires pure faith in order to get pure devotion. And if our faith isn't pure, then the bhakti that we get isn't pure either. It then becomes mixed. So people make just as much spiritual advancement with a beard or without a beard. But for Prabhupada, he said it's the principle. That this is how we look, and with nicely shaved, preferably with tilak, and if even possible, sika. We have some of our devotees, businessmen devotees, who wear sika. It's easy to have sika, even with hair. In Vrindavan, there is not a shop owner who doesn't have a sika. They all got hair, but every single one of them has got a sika. It's their religion. So they're willing to pay the price, and we dress the part. I brought this point up before. Mormons are always well dressed. So devotional clothes isn't an alternative to, well, in English they call it looking like a slob. In other words, all right, in the temple room I dress up nice, but otherwise I wear jeans and sloppy pants and so on. And why? Why would you want to do that? What to speak of wearing Afghani clothes? It's most sort of, even sounds politically incorrect. What to speak of really Tamaguni. Oh, it's comfortable. Just walk around naked. That's even more comfortable. Why don't you do that? It's not an issue of comfort. It's an issue of that it's a culture. I was trying to explain that in Prabhupada's Vyas Puja, that Prabhupada introduced a culture. He didn't introduce a religion. You go to church on Sunday, come to the temple on Sunday, dress this way, and then otherwise just live like you want to live. So There are other gurus who will say that's okay. Then you have to really think twice, go to them. If that's the way you want to live, then you got the wrong guru. Jai, 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 Gauranga Ki Jai. I'm really not attracted to collecting disciples or having more followers. I'm really, my main interest in helping devotees is twofold. One is that they're really sincere and serious about becoming pure devotees, and they're willing to pay the price. And the other is that they'll do their utmost to help Prabhupada's movement. So otherwise, if someone wants initiation or wants a guru, then, in other words, without this being their main emphasis, then I'm just saying I may not be, or not I may not be, I'm not the right person. And it's quite likely that you can, our Krishna consciousness movement is broad. There are differing opinions. Everyone won't necessarily agree with me. Some people are fine with beards and so many other things. And
кто-то считает, что бороды это нормально, и многие другие вещи.
You're on my Zoom, not on anybody else's Zoom, so I'm telling you what how I view and value Krishna consciousness, and this is the way I've been in 50 years. I put on Western clothes 3-4 times, and after that, I just so these two things, just keep in mind. One is, really being a flag bearer for Srila Prabhupada's movement in terms of personal development, and in terms of just how we're representing the Krishna consciousness movement, that we're really representative. Religions have external features by which people recognize them. Sikhs have beards, have turbans, and then they do, and they take it quite seriously. Then you have very Orthodox Jews who also have their own different way by which they're recognized, and in other religious circles, different Indian faiths. Of course, there are different types of tilak, and different types of Vaishnavas have different types of tilak. These are all part of our own personal identity, part of our own communication to the world, and they are also a mark of our success. So Srila Prabhupada, in India, in Srila Prabhupada's time, in the time of the British, well, at least as long as the British were there, the highest post that an Indian could hold was High Court judge. So all government management was all done by English. They didn't trust anybody else. But Srila Prabhupada would say, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, is that our Krishna consciousness movement is spreading when the High Court judge is wearing tilak. So that means that, if we're trying to get other people to wear tilak, that means we wear tilak. And if we're expecting them to wear tilak in court, then we wear tilak. Or at least we try to get there. And in certain places in India, there is absolutely no objection to that. In other places, in Islamic countries, it may not be a good idea. And in some places, maybe it's possible or not, at least in our workplace. But otherwise, No one's going to stop us how we look at home or how we look when we're going to visit our friends and when we're doing other things. So we should in all circumstances be really flag bearers of what Krishna consciousness is, because you just don't know. I'm just going out to the shop, so I got to quickly get dressed up in such and such. And I'm not going to go on about this too long, just about dress, because there's more to say. But you can get dressed up in your Muslim clothes, because that's what they are, that's what the Muslims wear. So you can get dressed up in Muslim clothes and walk to the store and buy your things, and that's it. But if you get dressed up in a dhoti or a sari, and the dhoti is for the men and the sari is for the ladies, and you put on tilak and you walk to the store, there's going to be 10 people who's going to say, there's a Hare Krishna. And when they say there's a Hare Krishna, their spiritual life is either starting or you're actually pushing along. And all you've done is gone to the store. You may not notice what happens, but things are happening and you're getting spiritual benefit for that, spiritual credit for that. So it shouldn't be underestimated. Well, it's, it's my own personal time. No. If you want to be Krishna conscious, you have no personal time. It's all Krishna's time. I belong to Krishna, and I'm one of Krishna's men. I'm one of Krishna's soldiers. How do soldiers look? I mean, they look like soldiers. They're dressed for the part. So, two things: being very serious about pure devotional service, and being very serious about helping Srila Prabhupada's mission. So pure devotional service means you have to know what it's about. You have to read it. That's why Prabhupada gave us books. You have to have quality sadhana. And on the basis of that, then you can really build a real foundation of real devotion in your life. Otherwise, it won't work. And my main interest in devotees, while the period is there that I, still continue to accept disciples, is to help people who really want to progress in spiritual life. Not dealing with people's devotees' issues because they're careless about spiritual life. I really don't have time for that. It's a teacher in the classroom has to choose between the children who are playing and are inattentive, and I guess nowadays they're looking at their telephones under the desk, or the students who are very attentive and really want to be taught. So you can go one way or you can go the other. One is called the lame duck philosophy. So a lame duck is, if a duck is lame, then it means the people who are always troubled, and dealing with the people who are always troubled, but they're basically troubled because they aren't seriously applying to the path of devotional service. Or the other people who are very sincere and who really need, in one sense, much less in order to move them forward, but they also need attention. Students need to be taught. So I really like to concentrate on devotees who are very serious about spiritual development and realize that to be serious about spiritual development, you have to invest time and energy. It's not going to happen just like that. And of course, the other is that we're part of a wonderful Krishna consciousness movement in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our acharyas, and especially Srila Prabhupada, very much emphasized that having what we've received, we need to pass on in some way, whether it's just going to the shop, dressed in a nice way, or we're supporting our Krishna consciousness movement, but actually we need to have some type of template, some type of plan in life. How am I going to serve ISKCON? How am I going to serve Prabhupada's movement? So everyone's got a plan for their own material life. Well, I got to get this, I'm going to get educated, I'm going to have this profession, I'm going to get married, have this many kids, I'm going to have this sized house, I'm going to do this and that. And so we have, for better or worse, we have a vision of how we want to live life. But for a devotee, you need to have a vision as to how I want to really help Srila Prabhupada's movement. And how I live really should take a backseat to how I serve Srila Prabhupada. That should be the primary thing. So Prabhupada would often give the example of Kolovich Sridhar, that he was a very, very poor man because he was selling bananas, banana flowers for sabji and banana leaves for plates, that's what they eat. So you don't become very rich from those things. But Srila Prabhupada pointed out that still, it's there in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, 50% of his income he would give for worship of Mother Ganga. Rupa Goswami gave 50% of his wealth for spreading Krishna consciousness, distributed it to, there was no movement, no Krishna consciousness movement, so he gave it to Vaishnavas, Brahmins, and so on. And really, in one sense, so that becomes then the priority, the priority of our life. We've lived so many lives, so many families, so many jobs, so many professions. But what's new? What haven't you done? You've done everything. Just the fact that you forgot it doesn't mean that you got to start all over again. Puna punascharvita charvananam. So again, we're just chewing the chewed. Oh yeah, I forgot the gum at the bottom of the desk, and I take it out and I chew it again. So, but here's an opportunity to do something really different, something dynamic. What can I do for Srila Prabhupada? And it may vary for different people according to the situation. For young people, people in their teens, people in their early 20s, they should just simply move into the temple and find out what regulated temple life is about. For those who are already established and fixed and can't do that because they have other obligations, then on an individual level, I need to actually see, well, what can I do? What can I do on an ongoing basis, on a regular basis? Just like Krishna's constantly feeding me, it's giving me my wealth, my resources, everything for a day-to-day basis. So what can I do in order to regularly reciprocate? And for some people, it will be donating. For some people, it will be doing work. It may vary from person to person. But it should be the ongoing sort of vision of our lives. And other devotees may open temples or centers. Pritiviti Achiraptanagara Digrama. You've retired, your family's grown up. There's so many towns and villages that you can just open a place. You just have a little, go back to the storefront, you rent a little storefront, you hold programs 2-3 times a week, and people will come and you give them prasadam, you read Bhagavad Gita, and you chant Hare Krishna. It's very easy, nothing new, don't have to do invent anything, we don't have to do anything exotic, we don't have to do anything bridge, all you have to do is just chant Hare Krishna, and then that becomes a wonderful way. Yes, I've finished my material obligations, and now I'm dedicating myself to preaching and to the next 20 years of my life. And I find some other people to take it over when I become too old, and then I retire to Vrindavan or New Vrindavan or New Rajadam or Mayapur or New Mayapur or someplace where I can just sort of chant, read, and do some little service. So there's lots of opportunity because there's lots of towns and there's lots of villages now. But there'll be a day when there isn't, and you won't have that opportunity to do that anymore, and you won't be able to get the credit of doing something new, something that no one has done before, of introducing Krishna consciousness into the lives of a whole community of people. And of course, now we have internet, so there's really a lot of scope over there. In one sense, as a bit of a too much scope, it tends to end up being a free-for-all that can often confuse a lot of people. So many people doing vlogs and blogs and podcasts and Facebook and this and that. The people who may be receiving Krishna consciousness aren't getting the vision that this is all coming from one institution. It becomes often becomes very much a me thing, that it's me, but it's not. It's not the society. Prabhupada, yes, a lot of people introduce Prabhupada, and of course they may introduce Krishna, but very often devotees are hesitant to introduce ISKCON, institution. People don't like institutions nowadays. They may not like it, but they're part of a lot of institutions. They're working for an institution, they're part of a government, which is an institution, part of a country. So there's lots of institutions that they're connected to. And ultimately, yes, we're organized. Well, I don't know if we've gotten to the stage of being an organized religion. So you don't have to worry about people getting turned off because we're an organized. You can tell them we're really disorganized religion, but we're trying. We're trying to get there. Definitely, and it's not an easy thing. I keep when I'm driving around Budapest. I mean, I'm not driving around, but when I'm in the car, I keep seeing these electric scooters. And I don't know if in your town they have that, but here they have a system that you can rent these electric scooters. I guess you get an app, and you can drive it anywhere and leave it anywhere. It's just, they're just all over the place. And obviously no one can steal them because they're tracking all of them. So if someone steals it, then they're going to get the thief. But you leave it anywhere, they're all over the city, then they come and pick them up, they recharge them, they're electric, they put them back, people come, pick them up. Organization, that's what I call organization. So it really works. And I really lament that I'm too old for one of those scooters. I'm really envious when I see these people scooting around. You know, I missed out on this one. I didn't have that when I was young. So yes, we need to do something to fulfill Prabhupada's vision. No doubt there are some unpalatable things that are connected with institutions in general, and ISKCON's got its own history, but so does every other religion, and that's just part of the reality of imperfect people trying to become perfect, and it's a hard path. And so they do a lot of unfortunate things along the way, and that sort of reflects back on the faith that they're part of. But still, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to cooperate together, to work together, to make the Krishna consciousness movement really successful. So I thought I'd mention these two things, and you know, I listed those devotees who, you know, want to be accepted. Unfortunately, one of the main reasons being all the restrictions that are placed on us by COVID. I don't have the opportunity to know many of you. For instance, I just sort of bumped into Marianne, and then I got to know her. It was Anna Maria. I was amazed. She lived for 17 years in the manor. You knew her in the manor? 17 months or years? Months. Okay. Months. Okay.
It's 4 months in the manor and 17 years in the UK.
Well, 17 years in the UK. So then I got to know her. I was able to talk to her. It's difficult. I like to get to know people. I like to be able to interact with them gradually. Zsuzsa, I've known and seen over the years, and there are others here who I'm sort of not mentioning, who I get to know. On the other side, there are others who are really, really far away, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and it's unfortunately much more difficult to connect. And for me to get to know them. Sam, for me, Sam was just someone at a distance, and then he's been staying with us for what, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. So living with us for 2 weeks, I really got to know him quite well, and obviously devotees here in Hungary. Just by coincidence, I got to meet Mohammed the other day. He was there. We mixed him up with Mohan, and so there was a sort of a mix-up between the two Mohammeds, and I didn't know what. Anyway, so that helps a lot. Personal contact and communication, which is easy for me for the Hungarian devotees, but even then it's sort of quite limited. I'm interacting much less than I was in the past, and that's something for everyone to reflect on. How much personal association or personal contact. I give 1 class a week. So that's quite a difference from the way I used to do things in the past. And for those who are very distant, how substantial will the connection will be? Is this going to be something formal? Or is it really some substantive relationship that's going to really inspire you to these two things? Service to ISKCON and really deep development, spiritual development, and going deeply in our own spiritual life, for which all of these external things that I began my discussion, it shouldn't even be a point, anything to talk about. If that's a problem, then like I said, I'm the wrong person, because for me, things like that shouldn't, they never existed in Prabhupada's time. I'm too old-fashioned for that kind of stuff. It's not the sort of the brand of Krishna consciousness that I was raised in or that existed in the 12 years that Srila Prabhupada was with us. So I don't know why I should have to pamper to somebody's foolish whims. Then it's something they need to look somewhere else. So that's a very serious consideration, far distant. What can I do for somebody that's far distant? I'm happy if I can inspire people who I'm practically living with. And it's really not easy. It's really not easy to dismantle people's false egos, especially men's. They're a lot more egotistical than women. And that's just the beginning. So this, being, accepting that I'm a humble servant of Krishna, and I'm a humble servant of the spiritual master. And, Prabhupada called this a dog collar. So, of course, nowadays dogs are a little different than in my day also. Now, more or less, people walk around and they pick up their dog's stool. That was sort of, if I thought that was the price, I would have never had a dog. As it was, I had 3, and they did a lot to sort of fertilize Montreal's parks and so on. But I never, inconceivable that human beings would stoop to such thing. So yeah, being a dog collar nowadays sounds like, it should be in diamonds or something, because that's the kind of dog collar people they give for the dogs. But that's what we are, and we're Krishna's servants, Krishna dogs, and whatever Krishna wants, that's what we'll do, because that's what it takes. So this, we live in a world of many faiths where it's the price is not high. All you got to do is, believe, convert. You can just convert from one religion to another. Just all they do is, they baptize, they bathe you, they make you drink some water and so on, and that's it. You're one of them. And what do they want you to do? I don't know, if someone's very strict like the Mormons, then they'll tell you if you don't tithe, then you're not going to heaven. But for the most part, it's very, very little is really expected. But there are different gradations. So sometimes we tend to get lost into that, especially if we've had that experience before, that I had to go to church once a week or once a month or twice a year or for Christmas. And that's what it meant being, in that case, a Christian or some other religion. There wasn't real, if you're Muslim, all right, then once in your lifetime you have to do Hajj. Of course, bowing down, if you're strict, bowing down 5 times a day, now that's something. Dropping everything, and it happened. It was sitting in the taxi in Istanbul the first time I went, and he stopped, and he got out of the car. I said, "Will you have a flat?" No, he got out to pray. So that was quite impressive, and that's a little much more serious thing. So, but sometimes the impression is there that, yeah, we just sort of have to believe. And part of Krishna consciousness, all right, you chant 16 rounds, you dedicate that 2 hours a day, however you chant. And everyone should have a guru. So I accept a guru. In other words, these become sort of formal things. They're part of a certain package that I belong and I'm Krishna conscious, but it doesn't actually really dig down into the real depths of what devotional service is all about. It's very, in English, they say superficial. So it's all going on the surface, and deep down, it'll be good for the future, but it won't take us back to Godhead. That kind of devotion is not sufficient. It requires more in order to go back home, back to Godhead. Read Prabhupada's books. If you want to do something, just go out every Saturday for half a day and sell Prabhupada's books. If there's any question about what should I do for Krishna consciousness movement, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, you can do this. There's a street in your town or village where people walk, and you just take books and you go out on the street and you sell them. And you do that on a regular basis and you get blessed. Or you're very brave, you can also just walk down the street and chant Hare Krishna playing kartals. You don't have to be a great musician. It's the mantra that's important, not the music. You don't need instruments or harmonium. So these things anybody can do. It requires someone to be somewhat a little brave and upfront. That's why Krishna. That's why you're here, because someone was brave and upfront. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here in Krishna consciousness. So we came to know of it, and even in our movement, in different parts of the world, devotees have sacrificed their lives. I mean, they lost their lives just so that we can have Krishna consciousness. Okay, I don't know. I've got a few minutes, and if devotees have any questions. Did you plan something, Chaitanya Chandra? Question?
Yes, Gurumaharaj. You mentioned the names of the devotees that you've acknowledged to be introduced. There's another list there of devotees that would like to have their acceptance acknowledged.
Oh, fine. Let me just look at that, and I'll just go this acceptance. And Bhaktin Eva, and Pravina, and Erne, and this is, you can see the great change on the Zoom. Here he's got a mustache. On the Zoom he doesn't have a mustache. Looks great. Monica, and she's here also in Budapest, and Ramona Chernak, and she's here, and Dimitri in Parma, Russia. And Gergo, he's sitting in the temple room, and Dobos Gabor, and he looks nicely dressed in the kurta, just short of tilak, and Bhakta Miklos also. And I can't tell about his tilak because of the lighting. Yes, we're Shashileka is his counselor. So, yeah, we're happy to be able to be of some help. Mostly everyone I have access to or I know. So it's just a good group. Okay, did I answer that question?
Yes, good much. Thank you.
Other things, other questions?
There's one question that was sent in by Horvat Levente. I don't know if he's here.
Yeah, he's also in the temple room.
Maybe he would like to ask his question, or at least I can.
Well, if you ask the question, then everyone will hear. If he asks it here, no one will hear. Do you have it?
In Hungarian.
Oh.
I think the essence of the question is that actually maybe I could get someone to read it out. I'll post it and then Gaura Krishna Prabhu can read it out.
Well, he can give a Hungarian translation, an English.
Sorry?
So I've just sent it to you, to everybody there in Hungarian. Could you translate that into English, or someone could translate that into English?
Az Úr személyében nincsen jelen a szenvedély és tudatlanság mélysége, hogy Okay, Gaura Krishna, say what this says in English. He's there, right? Anyway, it's easier to,
if there is no passion and ignorance in the personality of the Lord, how can these gunas originated from him? Why we make this distinction between Krishna's para and apara shakti? That's all I think.
Okay, I mean, these are not necessarily in line with topics we're talking about. Do we have anyone with anything particularly connected? All right. In the absence of that, at least the first, how do the modes of material nature exist in Krishna if he's not in the modes?
Yes, that was the essence of it.
Yeah. So many things, Krishna is above so many things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, and is the cause of so many things, but that doesn't mean that they touch them. So, you know, the example that he gives is of devotees. Devotees are like a lotus. Lotus grows from water, but is above the water, so it's really not touched by the water. I'm trying to remember in Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, Krishna points out that verse. So devotees are in the world, material nature is working in the world, and yet at the same time, devotees are unaffected. So then the logic is, if the devotees are unaffected, then Krishna must be unaffected. Otherwise, how can they become transcendental by worshipping him? How can they be transcendental to the modes by worshipping him if he was affected? So that's how they become free from the modes of nature. The whole material energy, what to speak of modes of material nature, the whole material world, things that begin, things that end, all come from Krishna. So there are, in order for the absolute truth to be complete, then it has to have Krishna's infinite, but at the same time, there's infinitesimal. So, well, how can there be infinitesimal things if Krishna's infinite? Because that's part of the infinite, that's part of the whole aspect of the absolute. Similarly, Krishna is all good. But that all goodness himself is all good, but that all goodness, when it becomes contaminated by the independence of the living entities, then it manifests the modes of passion or material goodness, and then passion, and then ignorance, depending upon that degree of contamination that's there. And ultimately, that contamination is also within Krishna, because everything exists in Krishna. The material world is in Krishna. So, you know, there's cesspool is, you know, collecting off somewhere here in Budapest, that's in Krishna. But at the same time, it's different than Krishna. Mayata tamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani natranti shuvastita. Krishna is the source of everything, and yet he, at the same time, as a person, he's also separate from everything. And just because he creates things doesn't necessarily mean that he's bound by them. People create atom bombs, that doesn't mean they got blown up by them when they let them off. So similarly, Krishna may create the modes of material nature, but that doesn't mean make him bound to them or connected to them. It just blows off somewhere else in the material world, but Krishna is busy doing something else. So many things material are there. They're also, in one sense, within Krishna, but in another sense, they're separate from Krishna. And that separateness is what is para and apara. The inferior potency, which is separated from Krishna, and the para. For the absolute truth to be complete, you have to have these two things. You can't just have everything connected. You have to have something that's disconnected. And then you have to have something that's in between the two, either connected or not connected. So that's why you have this Bahiranga Shakti, Antaranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti. So that makes the whole picture of the absolute truth. It just can't be one. That's or one perception. So everything has to be there, but the question is, how is it there? So there are, there are prisons in this country. The government has built the prisons. They got nothing to do with them. It's for the prisoners. Prisoners are the ones who are in the prison. And the prisons are in the country, but that doesn't affect the country. It doesn't affect the running of the country, just because there happens to be prisons over here. It doesn't affect the police department, the prime minister. They just do their duty. And certain part of government just deputes all this. This is the prison department, got nothing to do with us. They just give them a budget. Every year they give a report, and that's it. Krishna sets up the material energy. It functions with these particular modes and so many other things. It has really nothing to do with him.
I've seen Anna Maria has a question, Guru Maharaj.
Hi, Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, I'm just reading it. You're saying...
Was that Anna Maria's question or someone else's? That's David had a question.
I also sent some questions.
Okay, let's maybe start off with Anna Maria first.
Yes,
Or go in. I will call the devotees in.
Okay, well, why don't you read it, because I can't even see where hers is.
She hasn't. She's going to ask it. Say your question, Anna Maria.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. My question was in regards to chanting. How can I improve, and how can I know if I'm chanting correctly? And how can I improve my focus and the quality of my chanting, of my japa?
Do you drive a car?
No.
Oh. You drive a bicycle?
I ride a bike, yes.
Oh. Which side of the street do you drive on?
Right.
Why?
I don't know, because of habit, I think.
Huh?
Because of habit. And that's the rule. I mean, yeah. Depends which country I'm in, I guess.
Yeah. And how do you learn how to ride a bike?
My father taught me.
Okay. So you have to learn. You follow the law, then you learn how to ride a bike. You ride on the wrong side, then I don't know, maybe you get ticketed or so on. So then you won't get the right results. So if you want to learn how to chant properly, then you read and study Srila Prabhupada's books and understand who Krishna is, what the holy name is, what the process is. It's there, it's written down, just like I was going to ask about driving a car. How do you drive a car? You take lessons, you learn how to do the right thing, you follow the rules, and then it all works. And then you learn. So there's a process. Now you figure it out. You take the trouble. And it's there. There's tons and tons of different seminars on how to chant online. The basis is there in Srila Prabhupada's books. Sixth canto begins, it's all about chanting. So many of Prabhupada's instructions, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if you want answer to your question, then if you do a detailed study of Prabhupada's books and make notes and collect it, then that you'll not forget, and then you'll know how to chant. I can't give you any quick fix answer, because it's not a quick fix thing. It's like, you know, someone walking into university and asking, you know, teach me how to be a brain surgeon in 2 minutes. It doesn't work like that. But you, to the degree that you put in the effort to learn, to that degree, then you will know. And that's the basis of Krishna consciousness, that it's education. We are an educational institution. We're here to teach, but it also requires very intelligent people, because a lot of this is home study and self-study, which is not the easiest thing. So you need to seek out good association who helps you learn how to chant. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to close, and I'm glad that you got so many questions. If I can't send them here, answer them here, and if I haven't answered them already on the podcast, then you can just send them in over there, and we'll continue there. I was glad to meet the aspirants and to accept those who were also on that list. But if you change your mind, and that's what this is really all about. We're really all about Hare Krishna. What are we all about? What was I saying?
Choice, if you change your mind.
Oh, yes. We're really all about, this is a trial period. So that, and there's no obligation. You really need to see whether what I'm offering and what I'm requesting, what I want, meets your expectations and your abilities. And if it doesn't, then, like I say, there is many wonderful, wonderful devotees. I can't help it. I am what I am. And at this age, I'm not changing. Okay. Lovely to see everybody. And thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Jai Nitai Gaur
Hare Krishna.
Premanandi, Hare
Krishna. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.